Well, as the controversy, the debate continues over how to proceed with studying and potentially eventually building a shipping terminal out at Cherry Point. Bit of a bump in the road in the whole conversation. All started with the discovery by a Whatcom County councilman, Carl Weimer, taking the dog for a walk out in that part of the county. And Councilman Weimer joins us now. Welcome to the program tonight. What did you find out there? I noticed some things on your blog. You said you found some stuff already happening.
Yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was walking the dogs out at Cherry Point. We do that probably once a week at least, and I was surprised to see a bunch of trees had been knocked down, and when I kind of peeked back in behind there, it looked like about 2.5 miles of what appears to be roads had been pushed through in parts of a forest that we'd never seen any roads in before.
So what's the problem there? I mean, what do we need to find out about all of this?
Well, I knew enough about Cherry Point to know that whole uplands out there is full of wetlands, and I know the big controversy about the new coal terminal. So I was just surprised that we hadn't heard anything about any clearing going on. So I just let the Planning and Development Services know what I had seen and asked if they knew about it and if it was permitted. And what I was told is, no, they didn't know about it, and they were going to go out and have a look. And I haven't really had a chance to talk with them since, but it sounds like from a little bit I've gathered that there's some confusion about whether it's permitted or not.
So you don't know yet if this is actually illegal activity that's going on out there, or what do you know?
No, kind of what I've heard is that SSA had been given some approval to do some monitoring wells a couple of years ago, but that approval didn't clear anything about putting roads in or knocking down any vegetation. And some wells did go in out there a couple of years ago, just in some of the fields that didn't disturb much of anything. So this seems to be a new, much larger activity, and I think that the county planning department, maybe the Department of Ecology, is going to have to figure out which permits what's under. It's really complicated out there.
Do you think they're trying to fudge things a little bit?
I don't have any evidence that they're trying to fudge things. Like I said, there's these overlapping permits. They got a permit in 1997, and they've been doing some work under that, and then just recently they've been told that permit's not valid anymore for their coal port. So, I don't know which permit's what, and I sent a whole bunch of questions early this morning before I got on an airplane to Planning and Development Services, and hopefully those questions will get answered and made public, and everybody can move on.
What are some of those big questions, then, that you're forwarding on?
Well, some of the questions were just, which permit is this under? Did they know about it? Is this, does it meet the county's standards for wetlands, for ground disturbance, for stormwater runoff? There's a whole series of questions that this type of stuff normally would have to go through, and at least the little discussion I had with a county planner about it, they didn't know if any of that had happened yet.
Were they destroying wetlands out there or using poor practices or anything like that from what you could tell?
Well, they pushed through 15-foot wide roads about 2.5 miles, and certainly some of it is delineated wetlands. So, I'm guessing if you are knocking down 15 feet of roads for, it's like probably 3 to 5 acres worth of trees that have been knocked down out there, so I guess that could be called destroying wetlands.
So how are you able to gain access to that property as well?
Well, we walk out there. There's a number of roads out there that are gated. They're closed, but they're still public roads, so we always walk our dogs on those. It's a great off-leash dog park. And when we saw the trees knocked down in this other area, it's an area that's not posted at all. It's been open for hunters. We collect morel mushrooms out there in the spring. There's never been any attempt, I don't think, to keep the public off that property.
Okay.
So we just wandered back into one of the roads that we'd seen pushed in through, and that's where the pictures I took came from.
All right. Yeah, the pictures were up on your website and your blog, Carl Votes, as well. Thank you again, Whatcom County Councilman Carl Weimer, for coming on the program. We're going to attempt to make contact with SSA Marine, the company pursuing a terminal there. They have a response, we're told, and we'll hopefully get in touch with them here shortly. But we appreciate you coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, stay with us. We will get more on this story coming up. We'll get a response from SSA Marine. And SSA Marine is now responding to some of this now that it has kind of gone public. Joining me is Bob Waters. He's Vice President of SSA Marine. Welcome to the program tonight. And what exactly was going on out there at Cherry Point, and what about these concerns?
Well, what we were doing was we were conducting some boring samples, which is a normal process that you go through to check the geotechnical information there on the land itself when you're doing any EIS or any construction projects.
So did this fall under the permit you had, and which permit? Because from what I understand, the county said the earlier permit doesn't really count for some future coal larger size terminal.
Well, it's a totally different thing. What you're talking about is our 1997 shoreline permit.
Right.
And what we had done was going back in 2008, had worked out a program with the county such that we could do the boring samples on the property. And so this isn't under the 1997 the shoreline permit. This is under a permit under 2008 that we applied for to go ahead and do boring samples to do geotechnical information. So we'd gone through that. We had talked with the county about the program to do these boring samples. This is really as part of the EIS process. And so as far as we knew, we were in compliance with what was necessary to do with the county so that we could do these boring samples. Come to find out, there were some questions then early last week, and as soon as we heard that there were some questions on the county side, we immediately put shovels down, told everybody to stop work, and the county came back and said, we think that you also need to apply for a land disturbance permit. So we said, okay, great, then that's what we'll do. So now we're in the process of, we've stopped all work, and as the county has asked us for now is to do an additional permit, which is a land disturbance permit, and that's what we're in the process of doing now.
Why was that step missed?
Well, I don't know. I don't know why it was missed. It was general discussions that we had with the county beforehand, and I don't know why that wasn't brought up previously.
Okay, so again, talking moments ago with County Councilman Carl Weimer, he estimated something like 2.5 miles of roads and a handful of acres had been cleared out there. Is that the case? And did this disturb any wetlands or anything outside of permits that could be a problem?
To my knowledge, no. I don't know what the actual acreage is that, you had to bring equipment in there, and basically what you do is you try to take equipment over areas. You're going to have to go in areas that don't have roads to get into these spots where you need to do the boring samples.
Right.
And you try to go over vegetation that will bounce back very quickly, so you don't disturb much of the property out there, right?
Right.
If you do it's only a temporary disturbance, so it grows back real quickly.
And of course, you're talking. I should mention, you're saying EIS. That's the Environmental Impact Statement required by Washington State for these kinds of big projects. Is there, I guess, as far as wetlands and everything out in there, are there wetlands in that area that were plowed through, or you're saying those were kind of avoided?
There are wetlands out there in the area, certainly. What we tried to do is the other reason we're doing this time of the year is because it is the dry season, right?
Right.
So you try to minimize any kind of impacts you would have. There are some instances where you have to go into some areas that are close to or near wetlands, but you try to do it during the dry time of the year so it bounces back very quickly. The actual areas that were impacted, I have a map, but I'm sorry I don't have that with me right now to be able to tell you what those specific areas are.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that makes sense, and it sounds like you're saying all work has stopped. You're trying to clear up some of this confusion with Whatcom County. So,
yeah, and put the additional permit that they're requesting of us now, and that is the land disturbance permit, and once we have that in place, we should be able to proceed with the work.
All right, we'll continue to follow this. Again, Bob Waters, he's Vice President for SSA Marine. They are the company that is looking to build a big shipping terminal out at Cherry Point. We appreciate you coming on the program tonight.
All right, thanks a lot.